Thank you guys for all coming. This is the very first session with mock interview, this format, and let me give you an idea how it will go and what it's gonna be. First of all, I want to introduce our hiring managers panel. Enrico Bernardo, he is a vice president of software QA at American Specialty Health. Chris Wingood, a mobile QA automation manager at Prodege. Adeel Mansoor, he's a QA manager at ChowNow. This session, we're gonna have today about 6 participants, but we will see how it goes. Maybe we will be able to process more. So this is the structure of the mock interview, how it will look like. The first question, so each candidate we will invite one by one, and each candidate will have first 2 questions, which will be the first, tell me about yourself. It's going to be 1-minute question. So, and we will do timing as well. After that, the second question will be, what did you do at your last project? If you have experience, so that means that just tell us about your last company, what you was working. If you are new or like if you are straight out of the boot camp school, just tell us about your project that you was working at your last school, right? And then if we need to have follow-up questions, like our managers will ask you follow-up questions to clarify. We'll give for that like about 10 minutes, and all managers will give you within 1-minute feedback. So it's like overall should be about 5, 6, 7 minutes, okay? And the total will be, each candidate will have like 15 up to 20 minutes, and we'll do timing. If the time will be up, we have to stop the session and to proceed with the next one. All right, you guys all good, right? Okay, let's start with candidate number 1. And and one more thing. This is if you don't know, this is an anonymous mock interview. So if you don't want to turn on the camera, it's up to you. You don't need to. If you're comfortable with the camera, you can turn on the camera and share your resume. Sharing the resume right now is optional, and we will see how it goes. All right. Okay, let's start with the candidate number 1. Hello.
My name is Darina. Originally, I'm from Ukraine. I have a degree in economic university. I worked at this sphere for a while, and I always wanted to do something interesting and special in my life. So I worked at this sphere in economic as an accountant. I was successful, but I wasn't happy, and I realized what I want to change my career. And I always was passionate about the computers and software, and I decided to look into IT sphere. So I have my friend who is a developer in one good company, and he advised me to look into IT sphere. And when I started to learn about the QA, I was so passionate about this, and I started to read more and learn some courses. And then more I learned about software testing, the more I like it. And so I decided to change my career.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about your last project.
My last project was a mobile application. I had two projects. One was the mobile application, and the second was automation with Java. It both was interesting. The first one I would like to ask about the mobile application. It was an interesting project, what we did, and it was application for sorry attorneys and their client. The goal of this application was private message and calls. So about this conversation could know only two persons, attorney and client. And my task was test this application and find some wrong, the difference between actual result and expected result, and fix it, фиксировать, and report it in Jira, to Jira, sorry. So second was interesting too, and I was covered different fields using after test using Java language. So it was a website. The name was Wag Walking, and we covered after test different parts and process of what needed to test. The fields such email, password, login, different objects and pages. And while I tested, I used the tools like IntelliJ IDEA, Jira, GitHub, Chrome Web, Maven, and libraries like Selenium and JUnit. I used in different methods with Java to decision my goal and run test. What else I would like to? So I was excited. Yeah, I was excited from these both experience. It was great, and it takes me a good feeling to see how application changed. As a result, I bug reported, and it gives me a good feeling of being a real contributor.
All right, let's stop here. First of all, I want to say that you're a super brave person to be the very first one. That's just for that I do shout out for that. And I understand it's a very nervous process, so I'm very glad that you do that, and awesome.
Thank you.
Chris, Enrico, Adeel.
Yeah, tremendous job, Dorina. Thank you so much for being the first out of the block on this one. We'll start with a few easy questions. So tell us a little bit. The mobile application that you shared sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
How did you test these? Did you have a set of devices with you? Did they provide you with different types of devices? And how did you get the applications to test?
I used iOS phone and Android version, and I compared the expected and actual and expected result, and I used Jira to report the some bugs.
Okay.
Usually, I had task from my team lead. We had release once 2 weeks, and every day we had a meeting on Slack and discuss about some difficulties and our tasks.
How did you get the release every 2 weeks? How did you get the application?
How we did?
how did you obtain the new version every 2 weeks? Did
We
they give you a new phone, or how did they give
yes,
you the applications?
yes, I get, every 2 weeks I get the link with a new version, new release, and a message from my team lead, and I use only this new version to test.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Maybe some.
Adeel, do you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, sure. So I'd just like to quickly say that thank you for being the first person up again. It's amazing that we're able to do this, and I'm happy to give some feedback. One thing that I noticed that was really a key part for kind of getting out here is your passion for wanting to do this, right?
Yes.
We're talking about you're fairly new to the field, and it's good that you're getting a little bit of experience, but I would really focus on that story, being a new person, how you can portray that story, why you want to be in QA, maybe not focus on the tools as much, just because there were a couple of stumbling blocks there that I noticed as you were going through them, but if you focus on why you want to get into the field and show that you're dedicated and passionate and you're wanting to learn, those are all major high points for me when I'm interviewing new candidates. So I just wanted to give you that bit of feedback.
So I'm a quick learner and a self-motivated person, and I would like to grow professional and ready to move forward. And I really like to see how the application changes. And as a result, a bug of I reported, it gives me good feeling and be a real contributor. And I would like to grow professionally, and this fair so attractive for me every time from my childhood. And my my choice was associated with technical, and I play piano. I have degree in like a musician person. I can teach the kids and adult, but it's like my heart with computers and this sphere every time. Now I have a course. It's a Google course, technical course. What I start second month. It's about hardware, network, and some interesting, a little difficult things. And it's so interesting for me. I decided to throw everything what I could miss and to be more professional.
Dorina, you mentioned Linux in your OS section. Can
Yes.
you give me maybe your top 3 favorite commands and what they do?
My favorite commands. I used the Linux on Mac when I do some task, and it was a virtual machine. And
Do you remember? Yeah. Do you remember what your favorite commands are?
My favorite commands. Actually, honestly, I don't remember, and
Okay.
I just read the task and repeat the commands.
Okay.
Because it's so much information.
Adeel, you want to join? I mean, you're muted.
Yeah, I was on mute. Hey, once again, great job going first, speaking. Echo some of what Chris and Enrico had covered. Really good questions there, Enrico, as well. So one thing I would say is, everybody gets, not everybody gets into an interview and starts going. I'm similar. I'm the same way. So rehearsing your, taking the feedback that Chris gave and rehearsing that first part, like those are common questions. Tell us about yourself. tell us about your last project. If you rehearse those really well, they will give you more confidence. And as you go through the interview, as you warm up, you'll do better and better. I find that that is something that works for me. So would be, would also echo the same thing. The additional thing I would also mention is in your resume, you have a lot of references to Selenium in 3 different places, but your work experience doesn't reflect that. So if you I would ask you about that experience, but because I'm not sure what's covered. So the feedback would be ready to talk about that, or better yet, update your resume. Maybe have a link to a GitHub profile where you're showing your Selenium skills. Something like that would be helpful. But overall, good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Dorina, I'll give you some feedback as well. I threw up a couple of softballs in there. Those are kind of typical. I'm sure Adeel and Chris picked up on where I was going with my questions, because as hiring managers, these are softballs that we throw up, and we're trying to find details in keywords that you have in your resumes. So each of the words in your resume is subject to questioning. When I ask about Linux, you should be able to spout off even ls commands, or how do you create a directory, or something basic like that. When I ask about iOS or Android, you need to be able to explain that you get binaries like APKs or IPAs, and you obtain that and you install it through a USB or through test flight. So these are kind of softballs that hiring managers will look for. And then from there, they'll get deeper and deeper and deeper into questioning. As Adeel mentioned, they might start asking about Selenium. They might start asking about your GitHub account. What does your GitHub look like? Because that you put experience in GitHub in here. And so you would share a link to your GitHub. Instead of saying experience in GitHub, you might as well share the link. I love that you put your experience in there, and you talked about your history as a child, and you talked about your music background. Don't forget to put that on your resume and talk about what the technology and music and experiences are in your childhood and background, because that's really valuable as a new up and coming engineer in QA.
Yeah.
But yeah, wish you the best. Thank you for joining us.
Chris?
Yeah, I just have one more thing to add on the resume points, really, which is make sure that you're really going for a consistent format. When I printed out your resume, it had some clear indicators that the format was either pasted from different sources or something along that lines, because there's some inconsistencies that really draw my attention, particularly for QA roles, right? We're supposed to have the utmost attention to details. So when we get resumes like that, it's almost like a no-go forward for me. There are certain skills that we look for that are aside from that, but attention to detail is the most important skill for QA. So please, please, please have as many people as you can look over your resume before you give it into a hiring manager or anybody. A lot of people screen for that stuff across the board. The other thing too on the resume is if this is kind of a cheat, but I'll tell you anyways. When you're putting your resume, if you have skills that you have interest towards but don't necessarily know for sure, what I would recommend is actually adding a section to your resume that says interest. So that way you don't have to necessarily defend hard skills such as Selenium. Maybe you just, you've experimented with it, but you don't use it every day. Well, Selenium can be an interest, and that's a really good interest because people can teach you that. But trying to know it is really hard. In fact, most hiring managers are going to pull in a technical person that uses it every single day, and that person's going to quiz you with a real test. And it's going to show whether or not you use it. And if you wrote that you know it and you don't, that's going to be a big problem. We probably wouldn't move forward. So keep those things in mind. That interest section on a resume is a really good, it's probably the one thing I tell all my friends is like always add an interest section, because you may not be able to have the skill yet, but if you're interested in it, I can teach it to you. So it's not that big a deal.
Thank you.
Let's move forward with candidate number 2. Are you ready?
Yes. Hi, thank you for inviting me. This is a great opportunity for me to learn about this process and join your team and just meet the new people. So I would like to start to introducing myself. I am original from Ukraine. I have bachelor degree in accounting and auditing. So after spending 1 year in accounting, I understand that I would like to implement my creative thinking in a job, and this particular job don't let me to do this. Plus, like a user, all the time I was wondering why some application doesn't work properly, how they create it, how who is responsible for creating and quality. So based on my interest, I started to research, like Googling, watching some video, taking like Udemy courses. I understand I would like to be a QA engineer because this role seems to me extremely excited. Like this person plays one of the main role of application and company success. So I took a boot camp for 4 months where I was learning about IT industry, QA responsibilities, testing process. And this was like manual course. And after this, I started learning automation as well using Selenium driver and Python. And I have excellent attention to detail, strong organization and analytical skills, and ability to work independent in a team. And I'm easy going person. I'm learning quickly and adapt quickly to the new changes. I like challenges and thinking out of frame. So QA is the perfect role for me where I can implement my creative thinking and analytical skills.
Could you please tell us about the last project then?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have two projects. One is web travel platform, and one it was security messenger mobile application. So web travel platform is when people can create their own trip from scratch, like they can book the different hotels, flights, ticket, cars. They can book different events. Instead of going on different websites, they can do everything in one. And the mobile application, it's like security messenger. So people can create their own group, have audio, video call, share different files. Also, they have voice message with different voice type. So in these two projects, like if I will speaking about web travel platform, my responsibility was creating test cases based on requirements after manual execution and creating bug report in the Jira. And test cases we also creating in the Jira using plugin Zapier. So also I was learning how to test REST API using Postman, how to test database. We have MongoDB using Studio 3T. Also, like we was participating in the different agile meetings, like daily stand-up, grooming, plan, sprint planning review, retrospective. And for mobile security, it was manual testing, like functional and non-functional testing. We was using different tools like for crashing, like Android Studio for Logcat, Charles Proxy for checking the traffic, and for speeding testing like 3G, 4G, LTE, Wi-Fi. Like creating test cases, test suits, and after manual execution and creating bug report. So this is like pretty in general, explain like what we did. So if you have any question about project or my background, I will be happy to answer.
Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background before doing your boot camp, about your work history, but not specifically the work, but rather how it's related to technology, either in your work or your personal life? What kind of interesting things do you do around the technological space?
So, for example, when I was accountant, sometimes we have a troubleshooting, like we need to troubleshoot in our application, which we was using to enter in checks and all payments. So all the time I was dependent on the IT field, and sometimes I need to wait for a couple hours to be fixed. So I was wondering if I can do this, if I can do the troubleshooting by myself. So plus like a new generation, I spend a lot of times with using some applications and mobile, especially mobile phones. So sometimes I'm so frustrated because this application playing main role in my life right now. It's like, I would like to ship some parcel to my country, and application doesn't work and crashing immediately when I upload it. And I just frustrated how they can put this in the production.
Yep, I hear you. Thank you.
Sure. So I have a question. You had mentioned that you spent some time in Udemy learning different classes and things related to the field. Can you give some examples of what you learned, what you liked about the Udemy courses, what you felt they were missing?
One of my favorite teacher is Rahul Shetty. So I took Python programming languages from his course. I took as well Selenium WebDriver and Python for automation. And also I bought a new course for Java. So in my future, I was planning to learn this because my main goal in the future is to become a SDET.
Do you feel like you were successful in retaining the information and moving on to a secondary class, or how did you feel when you accomplished the class?
For example, when I understand the already basics and can do for example things by myself without Googling or looking for the course. Plus, when I can already implement in the testing process, so I feel like I get these courses. But I need to repeat sometimes just to refresh my memory. Yep. So this is the process how I'm studying.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Adeel, do you have any questions?
Of course I do. I'm on mute again. Yes, again, thank you for joining us. My question, I wanted to ask you about the capabilities you used in Postman. Can you tell me if you use Postman to run multiple calls at the same time? Did you also did you use it in an ad hoc fashion, or did you have tests in Postman to verify responses?
Yes, so before I will do API testing in the Postman, I get the requirements from developers, so I can understand what I supposed to send to the server and what response I supposed to get back. So based on this, I created different test cases, and after, instead of all the time just doing manually run one, send one call, another call, I did one time after just saving in collection, and next time I will just run in one moment. Plus, we can have a snippets which give us to do a small automation. So you can set up for every single call responding time, responded code, respondent body, is it match your requirements. So when you run automatically these test cases, they will show which one will pass and which one will fail.
Awesome, thank you.
You mentioned a couple of times localization testing. That's always an interesting field. Why do you think we need to do that type of testing? And maybe in your understanding, what's happening in the background on localization, and why do you think we need to test it?
So if you would like to go on international market and be successful, not just in United States, and we would like to be all around the world. So this is for my opinion, this is the main, one of the main testing process. because different country, different people, some people just don't understand English, for example, in my country, and they would be happy to have like application in Russian or Ukrainian so they can understand. So the main process, the main problem of localization testing is for example, when was using a Google Translate and it translated incorrectly. And for example, when I was reading, this sounds for me very weird and strange. So this is why we need to have a bilingual person who can check it from native perspective, just to avoid the, confusing situation.
Do you know how it's working from a technical perspective? How do you think the developers make a website localized? How does the English turn into Russian or Ukrainian, for example? Are they using Google to do that, or what do you think is happening in the background, if you could guess?
So, because we have one developer who is native speaker, it's going very easy because he can do testing by himself to see if it's actually was correct. So, but most of the time they was using a Google or some other translator is from my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
If you guys don't have any follow-up questions, let's go with the feedback.
I can go first. I thought you did a really good job in your intro, especially the explaining your last project. You were you gave us a good intro. You're going to talk about 2 different projects. You broke down the work in the project. You were concise without going into too much detail. There was some good information. What a hiring manager might be looking for in those things are something to ask you follow-up questions with in your intro. So it was very clear, and there were some interesting things to follow up on. So I really appreciated that. Something you mentioned in your introduction was attention to detail. Again, this is going to be a theme for any, especially QA resumes. There are some small typos. Maybe I would clear those up, and won't go into too much detail there. I think you can look those up. I would also say that in your resume, the technical skills section, you can probably do a better job of organizing things there better. As an example, you have Gherkin under languages, then you have an automation section. So that's one feedback. But overall, I think you did a really good job, explaining your experience and trying to answer the questions as with the right amount of detail, as concisely as you can. Thank you.
Chris?
Okay, so I just want to say, first of all, that I loved your story, and thank you, Enrico, for kind of provoking that out. But the driven by necessity need of kind of learning our field is kind of how I got out of it too, right? I started in like a technical support field, and then I realized that I can make an impact on a different end of the spectrum, not necessarily that we are trying to solve the problems after the fact in technical support, but in QA we're trying to do that before everything gets started. So the necessity of driving your interest in the field is really cool. And also I appreciated when you were talking that you had brought up Google. That's almost the #1 tool that we use for looking everything up. Whenever we don't have an answer, Google's the first thing. And I almost expect that in every interview when I'm talking about something. If they don't know the answer, I want to hear, I'll Google it.
That's the best answer. Enrico?
Yeah, so I think in your project area where you talked about like a high level of what your web application is or what your mobile application and what it is, I think that's a great key point. It really highlights and puts the frame of what you're going to be talking about. So I love that part that's in there. You do a wonderful job in your resume of identifying the what you have a lot of what's in your resume. This is what I do. This is what I've done. This is what I've learned. I think the next level for you is understanding the whys or the hows behind it. So that's kind of the nuance for you. Your whats are really, really good. And I think your next level would be the whys, which is where I was asking my questions toward. Why do localization testing? You know, or I was going to talk to you about networking. You talk a lot about networking, or Adeel talked about Charles Proxy. Why do you do this? So once you get to the difference between the what and the why, that's really a big jump. So kudos to that.
Well, I can add here as well that what I really like from your presentation is like it was really enthusiastic, and I see that you was prepared. At least it's not your first round of going through the interview, or maybe you was actually trying to do so. So that's, I think, very crucial to be prepared for any interview. And I understand, like, especially for kind of this event, it's really nervous to be in public and trying to speak up, but you did this really good job with that. That's my heads up. All right, thank you very much. Let me, I have a lot of questions like how can I participate in the next sessions, and for any people who just joined and don't know the context of what's going on here, this is anonymous mock interview. And to participate in this session, we're gonna do actually in the next session will be August 22nd, which is 2 weeks after. And to participate, you should first of all join to the Slack that I just posted in the chat. Alexia, could you please post it again? The Slack channel, and the channel calls mock interviews. Join there. We'll post there again the Google form. So who fill out the first will be served first. We have a waiting list there, and we'll go with the instructions in the Slack. So if you want to participate in the further sessions, please join the Slack, go to this mock interviews channel, and we'll post there the further actions that needs to be done. But we already have like 6 participants who did this process before, so they will be the first, and that's how we choose them, okay? All right, let's move with the candidate number 3. Are you ready?
Hello, I'm ready.
Okay, cool. Please tell us about yourself.
My name is Yuan. I'm from Moldova. I have a degree in psychology. And after I graduated at university, I worked as a recruiter in an agency, HR consulting there in Moldova. And after a few years, I had a lot of interview with developers, with QA manager, and it was a very interesting time for me. And I started to learn it. After a few months, my manager said that we need to upgrade our website, and someone from recruiter needed to work with our staffing company. And I tried to, I said that I can try it. And I tried it, I like it, because I prepare a lot of documentation for a staffing company. I spoke with developers, with manager, and it was very interesting. After they create a website, I tested it manually, and this was very, very interesting. And I write a lot of bug report. And a few years ago, I moved it here in the US, and we won green card, and I want to start here in the US my new profession. I mean, it's a country. It's a very interesting country for me, and I want to start a new profession. And a few years when I come here, I worked as a software tester in UTest. upgraded my skills. I know that how to prepare bug report to be very consistency. I mean, I learned there how to give a log file to our managers, and it was very interesting. I worked in U-Test with the same application like Burger King, Verizon, DC Universe, Lovo, as you see in my resume. If you see, I can share it. I don't know why. And right now I want to work with a team because U-Test is a freelance platform, but I don't know, it's not very interesting to me, for me to work alone without team. And I want to upgrade my skills. About my skills in automation, I have some courses in Partner of Computer School online when I were in Moldova. It was Selenium WebDriver, and I used Selenium WebDriver and Postman to testing my websites where I work in HR consulting and database, and that's it. I think 3 minutes.
Okay, I think you slowly moved to tell about your recent project, right?
My recent project was Burger King. There I found some bugs, application Burger King by iOS. I found some bug with counting of prices and reported to managers.
Cool. Thanks for sharing with us your background. If you put on your HR consulting or your HR recruiting hat and interviewing yourself, what would be a hard question that you would ask yourself? And as a candidate, what's a good answer for it and what's a bad answer for it?
What's a good answer and what's a bad answer? I don't know. What do you mean? You can't rephrase it.
So if you're hiring for a tester position and you're asking, you're interviewing yourself, what question would you ask yourself as the recruiter? And what kind of answer do you expect that is good, and what kind of answer do you expect that is bad? The hardest question that you have as a recruiter.
As a recruiter, I ask it, what did you doing in your last and previous projects? What was wrong with your experience? I mean, with your project, what was good with your projects? And how you collaborate with your team, because it's very important if we speak about not freelancing. And I think it's the most important questions, to know about tools, to know about collaboration, soft skills of candidates. I think it.
What would be a bad answer to those questions?
Bad answer.
Maybe you don't need to let the good answer. I want to hear about the bad answer that would make you reject the candidate.
Bad answer, it's, for example, if I ask, if we speak about this position, I mean, because we can speak about a lot of position. If we speak about this position, QA, better answer if I ask candidate, how you work with your team. He said that I don't mind about my team. I made just bug report and send it to developer, and that's all. Yeah, it's not a good, very good answer. Another answer, I don't want to learn something new because I know very good what I do. Because, for example, he say, I asked what kind of tool you use. He said that I use Selenium WebDriver, and I can ask him if we have mobile testing, and can you teach Appium? If he said that no, I don't want to teach the Appium because I know very good Selenium, I don't want to learn something new. And it's very good. It's very good that answer, because in IT we need to grow up every day, and to grow up, to study new feature and test new tools, and it's not normal to stay in this.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you. You can be next on their panel for in August.
Thanks.
Cool. I can go next again. Really good job on the on the explanations. I like your the resume as well. The starting portion is concise. You're highlighting the things you wanted to highlight. My question for you is, can you tell me what you working on your last project, Burger King iOS app? What was the most interesting part of that work, and what was your the sort of your least interesting part of working on that project?
It was a project. I was invited there by UTest, and they give us some requirements, what we need to do, what we need to search. Unfortunately, there I can fill the bug if it's, for example, graphic user interface. I just need to find performance, something with performance. I just need to do performance testing, I mean. And for example, I found the bug and the new version of Burger King. It was if we order something, some burger, we can tap plus a few times, maximum 9 times. But if we write in the field 99, it will work. I mean, officially you can order just 9 item for one burger. But if I write 99 and press OK, it will work. It was a bug. And another bug, it was, for example, I add a lot of 8 items. After that, I remove some items from my list, and item was removed, but price was didn't change it, and it was a bug too.
Awesome, thank you.
Something like that.
Okay, so my question for you is going to be related to when you were doing the HR consulting. You said that you created and maintained a database of known test bugs. What software did you use to create the database, and how was it maintained?
Software I used to make some call for database. I use Postman API, and it was some, it was a very old database, 15 years old, and a lot of things doesn't work there. And I tried to make a call for endpoint in Postman API, and a lot of I find a lot of bugs. After that, I changed it. I changed I removed that endpoints that doesn't work in, and I add a lot. How can I say? Another categories to this database. Categories, it was database. It was our recruiting candidates for recruitment. There was a CV. There was a lot of information from recruiters about candidates, and I changed it almost all categories there, because it was a very old categories. I tested all categories by Postman API, like I said, and it was a SQL, I think, SQL database.
Okay, thank you.
My follow-up question: so you sent the API calls, but how did you test the database itself?
Database Excel?
Itself.
Itself?
Yeah.
I made a call. medical. If you speak about just manual testing, I try to add a lot of category. For example, for filter, there was a filter by email, but there was a filter, for example, by name, and I try to add a lot of filter and see if it's work. Unfortunately, didn't work very well because, for example, one time it showed me 7 candidates. After time, if I use the same filter, it showed me 10 candidates. It was a worse database. I mean, worse experience for recruiter, because one time he need to find developer for one company. After that, he for example, looking for a candidate for another company, and he had another candidates. Not that candidate was what was previous time.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry for my English.
I have a quick follow-up question for you, because I'm starting to detect a pattern here. What kind of technical things do you do in your personal time at home? Do you do anything technical, fun? Tell us a little bit about that whether here in Moldova or here in Glendale.
If you speak about technical, I really love to teach students, for example, Java. I graduated some courses in Java by Udemy. If you see in my resume, I graduated in LinkedIn IP testing fundamentals because I wanted to see if maybe I don't know something in Postman, especially fundamentals. One time I worked with Android Studio and created some application for old Android version. It was counting something calculator. It was very interesting. And I tried to learn more about Selenium. It's very not complicated, but very big application, very big tools. I mean,
anything fun? Like, do you set up computers, networking? Do you play video games? Do you do car audio? Yeah. What do you do for fun? That's technical.
For fun, yeah, okay. If we speak about my spare time, for example, in the evening I play with my wife in PUBG Mobile. It's very interesting to play a game both. We try to shoot. We live in Los Angeles, and we both bought new photo camera, and we try to shooting very interesting places. And I try to help my wife to be a photographer. It's my spare time.
Okay, thank you.
Let's guys move with the feedbacks.
Okay, I can go first. The open-ended question Enrico asked you when you first started. Know that I think almost in every interview you go to, hiring manager will have one open-ended question. There's no right or wrong answer, really. They'll ask you an open-ended question where they might, that might, when you first hear it, it might feel uncomfortable. And Enrico can probably talk more about that. But the key there is to continue to ask probing question. Don't let the initial shock of the question or not being able to understand it right away, don't let that surprise you. The hiring manager is not expecting that you know about it, that you know the answer right away, or they aren't even looking at a very specific answer. It's very open-ended. They want to learn more about you. So so I would say when you have those open-ended questions, or in general, any questions that you don't understand, continue to ask probing questions, clarifying questions, and check in with the person who's interviewing you. The other thing, maybe I'll stop doing it, but just continue to emphasize, typos in resumes. Super important. I'll tell you, at the last company I was there for over a decade. and I had a typo in the first word. So so know that if you're talking to a hiring manager, especially QA, they will point out your typo to you, and then they're looking at your reaction. It doesn't necessarily mean if you have a typo that that you won't get the position, but continue to refine, Chris's advice, have other people look at it. So, like on your resume, white box testing, for example.
Yeah, it's very, very powerful said, but white box testing, I just luck and try to work with Selenium, but I need to start to learn very much about Selenium.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Chris?
Okay, so thank you again for joining us and doing all this. My feedback stands pretty strong on the resume front. Oops, I'm sorry, my dogs are going crazy today.
No worries, working from home. This is what we get, right?
Yep.
I have kids around, so.
So, but yeah, really spend some more time on your resume. Is the biggest advice I can give you. I really I appreciate the different take on it, which is that you're somewhat trying to tell a story, but your story reads a lot like bullet points under each job. So what I want to see from people's resumes when I'm looking at them is a lot more like how you use something rather than you did use something. It's important that you use Jira, but you use Jira to track defects, to fulfill the requirements of the bug lifecycle. That's a reason why you use Jira. And there's a big difference between somebody who understands how to use Jira and just uses it, right? If you're just writing the bugs and putting them into the system, then you don't really have a full grasp necessarily of what's going on. And it's important to relay that information to that and being able to speak about those things. So under your work experience, I would spend more time telling that story of what you did rather than listing things off right after the other.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move forward with candidate number 3. And
wait. Sorry, Enrico, you're muted. That's why we didn't hear.
Sorry, one more real quick feedback. Your resume is your brand, and I can sense that you're more technical than your resume reads, actually. So try to work with someone to reshape your brand. I think you're underselling yourself. You're actually more technical than you laid out to be.
Okay.
I agree.
Thanks.
I agree. And all right, thank you very much. And also, I know like Chris, he has to go in a bit. And Adeel, you said that you will stick with us until 12:30, right?
Yeah, hard stop at 12:30.
Okay. Yeah, we should be good. Anyway, let's move forward with the candidate number 4. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right, great. Okay, please tell us about yourself.
Okay, thank you for having me here. I'm pretty new to the QA field. I've been doing QA since last year. I started off doing a lot of manual testing with a lot of feature testings and regression testing. But now I'm also doing some test plans, and I write test cases for smoke tests, end-to-end tests, and regression suites. And I also started to learn how to write automation tests as well. And I work both on Windows and Macs, and both on iOS and Android platforms. Since the beginning of my QA career, I've learned many different tools like TestRails, Clubhouse, Jira, GitHub, Selenium, and I'm always interested in learning more tools. I work with teams of various sizes in a very fast-paced, agile environment, and with diverse products. And before I was a QA, I was also a business owner and a designer. So I feel like those experiences have been a huge help in my QA career so far.
Okay, great. Can you tell about the last project that you
Yeah.
was working on, familiar with?
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently working with two different projects. One of them is a mobile app for sports team management. So I would download the alpha versions from the builds, and then I would do like regression runs on those apps. And for the other project, it's a community app that connects people that needs help and wants help. So in that team, we would do like daily stand-up. We would discuss like what we're working on and what problems we have and how we're going to solve issues. I will help them create test plans for new features and make sure that all the requirements are covered. I also update like test cases if needed for other testers. And right now I'm working also with developers to manage and create like automated test cases to cover more bases for the regression runs. So yeah, on a daily basis, I execute the test cases, and if I come across any issues, I will log it as a bug and I will assign it to the corresponding development team to work on it. Oh yeah, I also work with the product team and the QA team to assign story points and triage backlog issues. Yeah, for all the, we have 2 weeks, 2-week sprint cycles that alternate between like web and mobile platforms. So we have a release every week, so it's quite busy.
All right, guys, do you have any follow-up questions?
I have one I'd like to ask. You had mentioned that you are assigning story points to different tasks. Can you give me an example of what an easy task or a low story point value would be, and an example of a hard task or high story point value?
Yes. So a low point would be like something that's like overlapping of the UI, the text or something on the app is not showing up correctly. We will assign that as like one story point. Something difficult is like sometimes there's sync issues between devices or accounts, and we will assign that depending on like how much the developer thinks like it's how hard it is to fix. Then it would be like a 5 story point or whatever they think it might need longer to fix.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned in your last position that you were responsible for, or you executed regression tests. How do you determine what's included when you get a release? You have to execute regression tests. How do you determine which tests to execute?
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, how do you determine what tests to include in a regression test run?
Our regression run actually covers almost everything. And we have lots of different testers that runs regression suite manually like every day, just to make sure that everything like works properly. But let's say sometimes we have a hotfix for an issue, and there is no need to do the whole regression run. So I would work with the developers and ask them like, what areas do you think like this affects the most, and we would test on that area, whether if it's a calendar or like a scorekeeping issue. You know, I will work with them to find out like what they think, you know, is needed to be tested.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
In your summary, you have the acronym SAS. That's a big word. Tell me a little bit about what SAS is. If as a 10-year-old child, how would you describe SAS? What is that?
10-year-old child. SAS, software as a service. So describe it to my kids. I would say, you know, it's like a task that you would want you have the phone to help you do a task. That's what I would say to my kids.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one more quick follow-up. I also like the bullet, created automated tests using Selenium and Cucumber. So, you know, maybe you don't have to dig down into the automated part, but tell us a little bit about Selenium and Cucumber. What is that relationship like?
Wait, what is the relationship like?
Right. What is Selenium, Cucumber? So once again, 10-year-old child, you know, what is Cucumber? What is Selenium? What are those things? They sound pretty interesting.
Selenium is like a test library that allows you to like create test frames. But Cucumber is like an extension. So like it's a specific type of like language that you can use, like Gherkin. So so it helps you write tests easier. Instead, Cucumber is like you use it like even without knowing how to code, you can just say like, oh, if given this scenario, then I can do this thing, and it's easier for tester who wants to do automation but don't know that much code. They can still write it.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, let's move with feedback then. Who want to be first?
I can go first. You know, thank you for sharing the background, you being a designer, because this resume shows that this is a designer's resume. Everything is lined up really well. A lot of use of, you know, good use of white space makes everything super readable. Like one of the better resumes that I've probably ever seen. So good job on that.
Thank you.
You know, on the question that I had asked about regression, I think you did a really good job with that answer, following it, where initially, you know, the answer wasn't so interesting, but you were really thinking about why am I asking that question, and then you redirected it towards hot fixes and how you would determine the amount of testing required on hot fixes. So I thought you did a really, really good job there.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add to that too. Like the same thing. Amazing resume. Adeel had caught the exact same thing that I had written in my notes on your resume, which was this bullet point stands out as a red flag to me. Maybe not to everybody, but execute manual regression runs daily on TestRail. And the question that I was going to phrase on that is, does this person know the difference between smoke and regression tests? Because to run a regression, and I'm glad that he walked you through it. What is regression? And you said that it's split up amongst everybody. It's like everything, and it is. It's true that that term means basically everything. So it was concerning to see that it was being run daily, the whole thing, right? Normally we have automated regression that will run most of it, but not all of it, because it's impossible to keep up with that, to be honest with everybody. But normally smoke tests are run kind of on a daily basis, where you're checking just kind of the big important things. And so I had that outlined as that was a concern of mine, but you addressed it very well, and I'm very happy with the way that you answered it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And the story that I see from your resume is you have design experience. You created a company or a brand, and with the boba shop, and from there you moved into this QA analyst role and tester role. You once again talk a lot about the daily work that you did. I think what you're missing is a little bit of leadership and kind of driver work that you probably do inherently for your team. And so I would take a look at that, because you have experience. I have a feeling you're adding that to possibly, a group of newer engineers, and, like participate in retrospective meetings. But how did you participate in improved productivity or highlight this 100% efficiency? You're probably taking your transferable knowledge as a business owner into this QA analyst role. So that's an important part of being a QA analyst and QA engineer, is to drive and to create processes as well as being technical. So I would highlight that to just kind of give you an extra oomph in your resume.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. Let's move with the candidate number 5. And we are going pretty much with a good pace. So we might be able to pull candidate number 7, but let's see how it goes. Candidate number 5, are you ready?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hi, please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so thanks for this opportunity. So about myself, I'm basically from India, and I have worked as a manual tester for 3 years in the past, where I have done the manual testing of web and mobile application in Agile Scrum methodology. Recently, I have completed my bootcamp from TestPro, learned Selenium, improved my skills, and now looking for a job as automation QA. So if I give a brief introduction about my past work, like when I was a manual tester, I have worked with clients like HBO and Farmers Insurance. So with HBO, the website was HBO Go, which was an online video streaming website, which I have tested on web and mobile application. So my main responsibilities were like reviewing the requirement and author the test cases based on the requirement, executed test cases and updated the status on Jira, created defects based on the failed test cases, and tracked the status till closure, converted all the ad hoc bugs into the test cases, then taken part in daily Agile Scrum meetings, and given KT to the new joinees in the team. And so like that application we have tested on web and mobile. So for mobile testing, we have used simulator, where we have done extra like mobile specific test cases like installation and uninstallation of APK file, then testing on different portrait and landscape view. So this is regarding my manual testing project. And for my recent work, where I have learned Selenium, so like based on my bootcamp experience and whatever I have learned from the online like courses and everything, like I have hands-on experience on writing automation script using Selenium WebDriver in C# and Unit framework. I am aware of all the NUnit annotations like setup, tear down, one time setup, one time tear down, and then test case source, then how to find a web element using different locators, how to write the XPath using CrowPath tool, then how I'm aware of different data driven, keyword driven framework. I have involved in designing hybrid framework using data driven and page object model. Then I know how to review the test report generated by extend report. And yeah, this is the basic background about myself.
Basically, you was moving slow, I mean, to your last project, but maybe can you iterate a little bit more deeply about how did you do that with the test automation project, since you are interested in these positions?
So regarding test automation, in our QA bootcamp, we have worked with one audio streaming website. So we have converted, I can convert, I have already done all the manual test cases converted into the Selenium web script. And I know all the locators like ID, name, class name, links text, CSS, XPath, how to find the element uniquely on the web page, then aware of page object model, which is used for the reusability of the code, where you in web application, each page will be considered as a page class, and all the elements and method in that web page will be kept on that page, and you can call that methods and from that page.
All right, Enrico, Chris, Adeel, follow-up questions.
Sure,
I'll start with
real
one. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Okay. So I just wanted to point out, I'm going to start a little bit more with feedback than questions, just because this is a very technical resume and technical discussion. I would advise that you be very prepared to do a technical interview in terms of testing, like I brought up earlier in the day, where somebody's probably going to pull up some code or something along those lines and ask you what it does. So my advice to mitigate that, because it's hard to read other people's code, it will fail a lot of people, is to bring your own code, either in GitHub or a sample.
Yes, I have it in my GitHub.
Okay. Yeah, using that as a demo, I think will really strengthen your ability to present yourself well, because you're talking to a lot of points, and I can tell that you understand what you're talking about, but you would be, basically, I would refer you to my day-to-day technical automation engineer that would skill check you at this point. So
Thank you.
Just be aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Enrico?
Go ahead, Adeel, because Chris's comments were along the same lines that I have, so I'm going to rephrase a little bit. Go ahead. Okay,
sounds good. So I'll echo some of what Chris, but I'll ask you a question. Maybe stealing from Enrico's book. Describe to me how Selenium WebDriver works, like I was 10 years old.
Okay, so Selenium WebDriver is an open source web automation suite. It is suite because it is a combination of Selenium IDE, Selenium RC, Selenium WebDriver, and Selenium Grid. So Selenium is mainly used for web application and regression test automation tool, which uses many framework like Cucumber, NUnit, JUnit, TestNG, depends on the language. I have learned Selenium C#. So there are 3 kinds of framework you can achieve: NUnit, XUnit, and MSTest. If you are using it with Java, you can achieve framework TestNG and JUnit, and Cucumber also.
Muted, Adeel. You're muted.
Sorry. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're either by memory, or if you're reading it, your description is Wikipedia accurate, which is good. That's really amazing. I'll challenge you a little bit. What happens if there's no selenium?
No silly. Like,
what would you do? How would you test if there's no selenium?
So, like, if you want to automate any test, you have to use some tool. So Selenium is that tool which you can automate your script. So Selenium alone cannot do anything. You need a whole framework, because only writing a script in automation will not give you you need reporting, you need how to take a screenshot, you need like read the data from the Excel sheet. Like, all this together is known as a framework.
I see. What's a good bug that your Selenium test has found?
So during all my learning, the bug I can share which I found. So I was working with the audio streaming website, right? So here the scenarios where you log in with a valid credential, and then only you can play the song. So the scenario was like, once you log in, play the song, log out, then again when you play the same song, it should be started from where it left. So this scenario, like, I found a bug, like there was a bug.
And Selenium is able to listen to music and songs as well?
Can you?
You mentioned, I mean, that's a really, it's an amazing example, very difficult because you're asserting on audio. How did you know that the song was playing?
How do I know the song is playing?
Yeah, you mentioned your scenario was you log in and then you play a song. How do you know that the song was playing?
So you assert based on the play button, it is enabled.
Got it.
So
Good.
there are three enabled. There are three methods which you can assert, like enabled, disabled, and one more is there. That I forgot, but based on that you can do the assertion.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you. Good answer.
Right. I think we covered all. Anybody else want to add something? If not, let's move forward with candidate number 6. Thank you very much. I think that was very interesting presentation. That's what I would say. Alexia, do we have candidate number 6, or we can move forward with number 7? Are you ready?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah. The candidate number 6 is there.
Candidate number 6 speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. All right.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, let's get started. Please tell us about yourself.
I am candidate number 6. I'm a longtime tester. Recently, earlier this year, was laid off, and I'm pretty rusty in the interviewing process. So I very much welcome this opportunity to speak with each of you. I've been working QA for many years, most recently on web UI with Selenium implementations. But early on, started out working with databases and did a fair amount of kind of, well, at the point we didn't really, we used SQL scripts in lieu of formal automation to try and do some validation against databases. Later, segued towards database tools, and ended up spending a bunch of time testing a schema manipulation tool and a graphical query tool. And then as my career progressed, Selenium came up and I focused on web UI. I very much like working on testing web UI. I'm passionate about trying to understand customers' reasonable expectations, the things they bring to an interface when they're trying to use our tools, and reasonable assumptions that they might make about how that all works, and identifying issues that might be affecting them. Most recently, in my now completed role, I came into an organization where there really wasn't a formal regression process of any sort. To the extent that testing was occurring, it was being done on developers' workstations on a ad hoc environments that were built up on their dev workstations. We introduced a shared staging environment and used the build server Team City to begin to formalize working in and deploying through that staging environment and outward towards production, as well as hosting the test automation runs that I was working on around web and Selenium. We included an in-house Selenium grid using the containers that are published by the Selenium folks and Docker to set up a small Linux Chrome browser server, which is where the vast majority of our automation ran initially. Later, we introduced Sauce Labs and used their commercially provided browser farm to expand our coverage and try and cover more of the scenarios that our customers were interested in. Along the way, the test runners initially ran directly on the Team City agents, but then later ran in containers. And then quite a bit later, we transitioned away from Team City and started using GitLab as well for basically replace Team City entirely with GitLab. Let's see, what else? A project that I worked on at one point that I liked a lot was a fairly succinct end-to-end scenario that was production facing. One of our web pages provided the opportunity for a free setup. You could fill out a form and establish an account and then log in through that account and start to interact with our interface, somewhat limited because it was the free version. Part of something I thought was kind of interesting and fun in working with that interface is we had a table, a grid with rows and rows of customer provided data that was of interest to the customers. And you can read about addressing cells into a table, like Dave Hafner's got some columns about it. And if you try to iterate through a table like that, cell by cell, or even row by row, with Selenium selectors, it can be pretty slow. So I decided to try out pulling from the table anchor the entire HTML block and then parse that out into a list of dictionaries to represent the grid that was in the UI, and use that as a faster means of scanning for particular data values. So that's a little bit about me and some of the stuff I've done recently.
And that's pretty much you covered with the second question about your recent project. Guys, Enrico, Chris, Adeel, do you have any follow-up questions then?
Sure. I'm going to start out real quick and say thank you so much, and I'm sorry that the current economics of everything is taking it away. I think that's exactly why all of us as hiring managers signed up for this, was to try and help people who needed the little bit of extra boost and confidence and everything along those lines. So it means a lot that you're here and that we can do what little we can to help. So thank you.
I appreciate it. It's a very intimidating process.
we talked quite a bit about it at length, trying to make it so that it was more confidence, less intimidating. So hopefully this comes as some value.
I think you guys are doing a really good, I mean, I'm enjoying, this is going better than I had, than my anxiety had led me believe.
That's great. And as far as you saying that you're rusty on your interviewing skills right now, your story, like I said, it lends a lot to itself. Very good story, very good examples, and a lot of work went into your resume. And so I'm going to quiz you on basically what's my bread and butter, but it looks like you haven't used it in a while. Robot framework. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Because I'm sure a lot of people don't know about it, but it's an easy thing for me to think about. So.
Sure. Robot framework can be contrasted to Cucumber. It's a scripting environment, scripting language, if you will, intended to allow you to abstract business logic into a sort of human readable format. At its basics, a robot script is just a series of keywords and parameters, typically tab separated. I used a plain text editor to create my robot script. Some people will use the robot IDE, which is something I didn't use. I did spend a lot of time writing custom keywords in Python. So robot naturally segues very nicely to, it's easy to load a Python class as a library, and then to start to address those objects and pull them into your framework. So we would model aspects of our UI as page object methods. For example, a login would have a login method that could be loaded as a library, and that would just pass in the username and password. Behind the scenes, the keyword implementation would take those parameters and appropriate locators and click on the elements on the screen using the Selenium calls, and then add the text to the username and password field, that kind of thing. So yeah, I like Robot Framework a lot. One of the things I like a lot about it is that it's got very good built-in HTML reporting. It dumps really nice detailed reports of your script as they execute out. You can also nest keywords. It's easy to build up more complex keywords by referencing other keywords. The flow of Robot Framework is, well, they've improved it recently, and I'm a little stale on some of the most recent changes they've made. For example, for for loops, conditional blocks are kind of kludgy, in my opinion, the way they do it. So a lot of that logic you probably want to move into your libraries, into your Python keyword implementations, and just try to keep the script sort of straight, top to bottom, user does ABC kind of thing. At least that's the way I approached it. But the reporting that it provides, you can easily embed screenshots from Selenium. The fact that it's got a hierarchy for the keywords, so you can kind of collapse everything to a very sort of high level business words, but then if you want to expand down into you want to go down to the click level, you can.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome. I like Robot Framework a lot. I did get pushback in our organization because some people felt that it wasn't pure Python. The flow of the scripting environment itself can be, it's best to keep it simple. It's difficult to debug one of those scripts if that's what you're trying to step through. Like I said, I haven't used the Robot IDE a lot. It may provide some facility in that regard. But generally, if I was stepping code or debugging code, I'd be doing it in the Python keyword libraries themselves instead of the Robot Framework, which again was so well documented by the HTML output that you could usually figure out what was going on that way, or make a small modification to the script to help with that.
All right, thanks. Adeel, Enrico?
Yeah, echoing a lot of what Chris said. I think if you have anxiety going into an interview, best thing to do is really rehearse your introductions well, because then that allows you to build that rapport with the person you're interviewing, and then you're going to be generally more confident. So again, your intro was really good, like the story you told, and you really know your stuff. One thing that hiring managers will appreciate is also you're keeping up with technology, even though you haven't used robot in a while. You're able to speak to it. You know what things are going on. those are things that hiring managers are definitely looking at. They're very, very interested. People who know their stuff and people who keep up with what's going on. So I would just say, you have a lot to offer. So just be confident, and if you need to take a break every now and then, especially it's harder to. This is something that's harder to pick up online versus in person, but because you have a lot of you have a lot of experience, you may have a lot of details. Continue to check in with the person who's interviewing you. Are you headed in the right direction, or is more information is required? Give them a chance to, if you have a really long answer, give them a chance to give you that feedback, so you can either keep going in that direction that you were planning on going, or pivot a little bit. So awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate what you're saying. And if there's anything else you'd like to add to that feedback, please do.
Yeah, and just a quick question for you, candidate number 6. You have a couple of years of experience, and maybe to share with the audience here, you have a few participants listening in. How would you address the question of the QA profession is dead?
Well, that's an interesting one, because I think a lot of the technology stacks that we've rely on have improved. The bugs are, in a simple way of saying, they're harder to find. Maybe things are, a lot of the web libraries that we rely on have just gotten a lot better. However, I do think that it's a good idea to have extra eyes on something that you're trying to prepare for customers. Who wants their customers to be the first ones to see something? Your developer, they understand what they've implemented and believe in it, and that makes them kind of blind in some respects, I think. So trying to get additional perspective, trying to get somebody who is outside of the model that the developer has used in order to implement this, and coming at it from a more general perspective. Like I said, I try to put myself in the customer's shoes. It's something I've done a lot of. I try to bring into the fold what I think of as reasonable but maybe unexpected assumptions. Customers come at an interface and they expect it to work a certain way, based on their own, experience and biases, maybe their culture. And that's not going to be transparent to the guy who's implementing all of this. So I don't know. Certainly organizations are being successful without dedicated QA in some cases, I think. But I think the best, the hardest, highest quality products that are going to be in front of the most number of people, probably deserve to have that kind of focused attention on them, so that, again, your customer is not the first one to run a particular aspect of your offering, your scenario, your UI, or whatever it is.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for that answer. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Enrico, can you share with some feedback? So Chris, Adeel, I think they already shared. If you guys want to add something else.
So I think that the question I had for you, Aaron, was the direction where maybe some feedback I can give for you. With all the years experience you have, and still kind of validating from that customer perspective, and kind of being the last mile, with a lot of UI automation, maybe an evolution to seniority is shifting that over earlier. How do you continuously alert developers? How do you create tools to help developers become faster? I think that's the evolution of software development engineers in test. And so, as you're creating all these tools and putting it in real-time CI/CD environments and empowering developers to see it without you having to have that extra eyes, that's that nuance in there as you're evolving into this seniority that you have. But your perspective is correct. We are a necessary organization, but where in that spectrum? And I think you've seen it long enough to kind of help push it earlier.
Yeah, we should try to be efficient about the things we can be efficient about.
Nice. I think, Enrico, I think you brought up very interesting topic for our meetup, following up meetup. This is really, I think this is very important to know, like where the QA is going. And shifting to the left, it's already, we all know that it's going, and we already know that QA become more technical, more demanding. It's not just testing manually, right? Or even just not, monkey testing. That's what I would say. Let's do this session actually. Maybe the next meetup we can talk about it, and I think that would be very helpful and to know just from our perspective, right? All right, guys. So let's.
Can I add one more piece real quick?
Of course, yes, please.
For candidate 6, I just wanted to mention this is another positive to your resume. There's really minor differences to what my role is and what your role is today, right? The only difference, you could elevate yourself really, is by adding metrics to your resume. You need to elevate yourself to the next level by telling people how your automation brought efficiencies within the program. So by spending this much time or this much money or this much budget, however you want to phrase that, you've gained this much time on an opposite side. So you're actually, from what I can tell, very senior in that level. And like, I would say, I would interview for a manager position where you would lead a team that did that.
That's interesting. The sad truth is that there's a lot of dirty laundry that is in my mind when I think about how our metrics went and what we were trying to do and what we actually got to. So it's something that definitely bears some consideration. I appreciate that feedback.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Thank you all for coming. And let's do the quick poll. What's the next step would be, right? Adeel just posted that they are hiring, and I'll repost this message in the Slack in a further. I know that Enrico's team, they're also hiring. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Let's do a quick poll, and also Enrico, Chris, I also sent the poll in the Slack, like who do you like the most? Just for right now, we're not promising that we'll be inviting you for the next step, but we'll discuss this later with our hiring managers. Okay, and just for fun, let's do this poll, like for all of us, like who was participating in this, which candidate do you like the most? We couldn't bring the candidate number 7, but we have candidate number, and yeah, keep in mind, the first 3 candidates, they are fairly new. So we didn't mention that in the beginning. 3 candidates we have new, and 4 candidates, and the last 3 candidates, they have experience.
I think even first 4 candidates is fairly new, as far as I understood.
First 4 candidates, yeah, maybe. Okay, and one more time, like what, how to participate in the next sessions like this. The next session will be on August 22nd, which is going to be the same time, Saturday, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Join to the Slack. I will post it again for whoever just joined. Just join to the Slack to channel mock interviews channel. And we'll go from there. I'll post the additional steps, what to do. But we already have like waiting lists who already applied for this activity. And in the following sessions, yeah, we have a pool of hiring managers like Enrico and Chris and Adeel who will be participating in the sessions. And yeah, thank you all. I think that was very useful. For me, that's definitely was very useful. as candidate number 6 said, it's intimidating process. It's not only for you intimidating, it's also for us intimidating. And it's like, you know, two ways game. It's not only you as it's not only us asserting you or assessing you, but also it's a candidates assessing us, like, and the companies that they want to join and would they want to join to this company, right? All right, let's see with the poll. Okay, I will end the poll. Do you guys wanna share with the results? Yeah, okay, let's share the results. I think it's very interesting. All right, number 6 is a winner. And candidate number 2, which, as I said, I was really impressed with candidate number 2 because she was really good prepared. That's what I remember. Enthusiastic. Keep it in mind, right? All right, guys. Thank you all for coming. So if you're not with a meetup group, probably you should all come from meetup group. I will post the next session, as I said, August 22nd, and I'll see you there, all right? Enrico, Chris, Adeel, thank you all for amazing questions and feedback. Totally very useful, very useful.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciated this process. And really my takeaway is I'm hoping that we can help more people in the future. Please reach out to me on the Slack group if you guys want, you know, help. I can spend a few minutes every now and then looking over resumes. I do take lots of notes. That's why I was looking off camera probably so much to you guys is I have literally I have this stack of resumes that every person that we interviewed today, I made lots of notes. I'm going to provide the feedback back to Evgeny so that way you can redirect it to you, hopefully, guys.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much, Chris. All right, Enrico.
Thank you, Evgeny. Bye, Alexia. Thank you.
Bye-bye.